Well, D. Scott here, and coming to you from Waco, Texas on Amazon Live. And this is another author interview. We've got Claire Skillen and Cathy Derksen here. A couple of books highlighted in the carousel that we're going to be talking about. And oh, look, there's Cathy and Claire right now. So, well, welcome to Amazon Live. Glad to have you here today.
I'm glad to be here, and thanks so much for hosting.
Yeah, it's just always so much fun to talk to authors and to get the behind the scenes, right? Uh, Back in the old days, they say when we used to watch movies on DVD. I don't know if you remember getting DVDs and watching
Hey,
those,
I
but
remember VHS.
those DVDs had so much storage capacity. They didn't know what to do, so they started throwing all those extras in there, like the making of, and we all learned what J.J. Abrams did to make movies, as if we knew anything about making movies. But it made us feel more connected to the story because we knew what was going on. When you see that scene, you go, "Oh, that's when he was jiggling the camera, and this is when they did that, and this is what they had to shoot multiple times." And so you feel more connected. And so I'm really happy today, Claire and Cathy, to have you here to give us the making of. And so with that, Cathy, let's have you give an introduction, talk about what's going on in the books that we've got.
Yes, yes. And yes, so I'm Cathy Derksen, and the main thing I do is create multi-author books. So giving people opportunities to become published authors, to get their story out there without having to write the whole book. I find it's a great way to get started as a published author, to just do one chapter. You're with a group of, my books are roughly 20 people per book. They could be anywhere in the world. So really coming together as a community and creating an amazing book. So yes, the ones that we're talking about today, a couple of them. So it's the Evolution of Leadership in STEM, Women Catalyzing Change, and Women Transforming the Landscape of Science and Tech. And so those really originated. My original career was in medical genetics. So I always have a sweet spot in my heart for women in STEM. And so that's where that series started. And right now we're actually working on the third book in that series, and it's called Women in STEAM, a Global Movement.
And so give people an idea what STEM and STEAM stand for.
Perfect. Yes. So STEM is science, tech, and engineering. And math. Mm-hmm. And just in the last little while, they've added the A in there to create STEAM. And so that is actually arts. And for those of you that were in engineering or sciences when you were in university, you're probably wondering, why are the arts blending in with us? Because back in the day when you're at university, it was always us and them. But the more you think about it, there really is no science without art. Without the creative side, without just the imagination and the innovation, there is no science.
Well, I think really, if we pulled the art away from Leonardo da Vinci,
yes,
it would be a much less rich world, right?
Oh yes.
And no one's going to dispute his contributions to science as well.
Oh, definitely,
right.
Especially and physiology and anatomy.
Yeah, we can't. So I think it's good that we've got science, technology, engineering, arts, and mathematics all together. So STEAM. And in fact, just about 5 minutes from where I'm sitting here in Waco, they just opened earlier this year the STEAM Center. And so it's a whole community center. There's a playground outside. Inside, there's all kinds of activity spaces and special media rooms, and they've got a broadcast studio set up so students can learn there. My friends over at the Texas Music Cafe run classes over there. One of them is teaching kids how to be in a band. So he says, it's great. Chris Morian was talking about saying that, we teach the kids teamwork on the sports field, but not everyone wants to be, on the sports field, and they want to play music or whatever. And so you have to learn the same types of teamwork skills. And so they're over there at the STEAM Center. And one of my favorite things they're hanging is one of the SpaceX Dragon capsules that has been
Mhm.
in space many, 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 many times. And I did reach out and touch it, although, they say just because it's been in space and I haven't. So anyway, so Clara, let's talk about your role here in these books.
Thanks, Scott. And I'm also, first off, I want to share some gratitude to Cathy in helping me get my feet wet, as it were, as an author, because I definitely echo what she shares, and that starting off with a chapter in a book, which is my role in these books, is definitely a beautiful warm up to writing or possibly building something larger. So shout out to Cathy there for all of these opportunities and a place to piece by piece pull together a story.
And what's your background?
How long have you got?
That's why she's
it.
perfect for multiple books, because she has so many different chapters in her life.
Well, I think an old mentor of mine shared a quote, and it was called, "But the whole of life is a detour, and that's what makes life so much fun." So just remember to take your eyes off the map, because the scenery is beautiful. And so that's a passage inside the first book, first chapter, which is Women Transforming the Landscape of Science and Tech, as it is apropos in its description of my journey so far, professionally and probably otherwise. So when we talk about STEAM, I would say I certainly contribute to the first three letters, and I probably started with the S. And so with climate science and biogeography and environmental studies, I found that's kind of how I got my start in things. And I found myself doing a number of different roles, as I was figuring out who I was as a professional and a person. And spent some time in public service across a number of industries, which included, environment, oil and gas, mining and minerals, and then also social policy. At midpoint, I found myself jumping on a very steep learning curve in technology, a place, had you spoken to me in 2010, I would have never imagined myself to be. I was the young woman post-grad in hip waders and a GPS doing stream mapping. So being behind a computer doing things like business analysis or change leadership, and now working as a registered clinical counselor and EMDR trained therapist, or wouldn't have even featured in my thought process back then. So it's been an amazing ride, and while seemingly disparate in nature, all of these things have an overlap.
So I'm going to remind everybody that we are talking with Claire Skillen and Cathy Derksen, authors, publisher. Cathy's company puts together these books with multiple authors, and they provide just great insights. So we've got Evolution of Leadership in STEM, and this is Women Catalyzing Change, and then Women Transforming the Landscape of Science and Tech. And those are available. They're right in the carousel. So maybe somebody out there that's watching has ambition themselves. They want to get more involved in STEM and STEAM, or maybe you've got a child or a niece. And the great thing about Amazon is you can click on the book right here. It's going to open a new tab, and then you can add to cart, and then you can put in where it's going to get mailed. So you can send this book right now. The school year is just beginning. Maybe you've got students that are getting into high school or going off to college somewhere. Give them some encouragement about what their future holds beyond the education, because Cathy and Claire, a lot of the news that's out there says the job market is dismal for college graduates. But I think STEM and STEAM are areas that are still growing.
Yes, I would say that they are definitely areas that are diversifying. And especially now when we bring in the whole world of AI and other applications of STEAM, then it really is amazing, the opportunities. And that's one of the things I often say to people that are, trying to help a young person find a career or a path that they want to do, and kind of reminding them that, when we were that age, there was only a certain number of options to choose from. And so it was like, pick one of these. Whereas now you can't even imagine what the opportunities that are out there. So really coming to it with a completely open mind of how can I use the skills that I have in so many different ways, and really just be open to those new opportunities.
I was going to a networking event, and so I had to do this like little 10-minute presentation on my business. And at the time, this was when I first launched my business out of working for another company, and I was doing social media management. And so I got the picture of me, 1967 black and white studio picture on the carpet covered box, short pants, plaid short sleeve shirt. And I put this thought bubble coming out of my head, and I told them, just like every little boy in 1967, I dreamt of growing up to be a social media manager. Right?
Not.
Exactly, right. And realistically, that's the world today, is working with high school students right now. I tell them that the job that they have, that they will provide for them or provide for their family, probably doesn't exist today. By the time they graduate high school, go to college, graduate, get into the workforce, get a few years into it, the job that they do probably doesn't exist today. And even though we're raising digital natives, it still just blows their mind. So, Claire, let's get over to you and talk more about your story, because I have a feeling that you're in a job, you're doing stuff that you didn't imagine as little Claire.
No, I think per the first book, little Claire, divided her Saturday mornings between nature documentaries and Saturday morning cartoons, and then getting outside before the age of analog, where, I had some existence before there was even a desktop computer. And it's been fascinating to be on this earth at this time, where I've gone from that place where home computers weren't a thing to holding an entire computer in my hand. My dad actually worked on the very first business computer in the world, called Leo 1. Wow. And you know how many kilobytes it had? It was 2 kilobytes, but it filled the size of a small elementary school gymnasium. And so if there's ever a metric for how far we've come in that space, it's there's
one of the things that it blew my mind one time. I was at this tech briefing, and the guy that was giving the presentation at the time, and he was a physicist of some sort.
Yeah.
And and he's telling that story of, and we've heard versions of this, but he went into something a little bit more detailed than I thought. And he said, when we did the moon landing, he goes, you have more power in your pocket right now than the computers they used for the moon landing. And he pulls out of his pocket, not his cell phone, he pulls out the key fob for his car. There is more technology in that key fob than was used to land on the moon. And so absolutely, this is the greatest time ever to be alive, because if you want to be an author, call Cathy and she will help you be an author. And so inspiredtenacity.com, you can find it right there. Claire, how did you get caught up into this writing with Cathy?
I think it was from what memory serves. There was a lovely post that I was tagged in by a friend of mine, Christine Carino, and Cathy found me through that post and connected based on what Christine had shared. And that was from our work that both Christine and I were doing in the women in science and technology spaces around promoting women in STEM/STEAM. And I think I'd probably more lean towards the STEAM camp myself, although to each their own. Yeah.
And so, Cathy, let's talk about how what happens? You get an author, brand new author like Claire. What's the process? What does it look like?
Yeah, so as you can see behind me, all of my books have different themes. So the series for women in STEAM, is just one collection of my books. They're all generally themes that are broad enough that almost anyone has a story that could fit in, but narrow enough that certain words really spark an interest in different people. So one of the other ones that Claire's in that is going to be coming out pretty soon is called Inspired Metamorphosis. So, of course, that one is focused on these major transformations that many of us have come through. So basically, I have a title and a theme created, and then I start going out literally around the world to who is interested in participating in this book. And so really doing that, bringing together a group of roughly 20 people. Most of my books are only women, but I have a few books that are men and women. So again, depending on how the themes go. And so basically when someone comes to me and they're interested in that theme, we tend to have a sit down chat or a Zoom chat about, what would they like to write about? What could this look like? Really helping them narrow down. A lot of people will come to me and they're like, oh, 2,500 words, that's so much. I can't write that much. And then they come back to me and they've got 4,000 words already written. And it's like, okay, narrow it down. So that's one of the big challenges with only writing one chapter.
Well, that was Mark Twain, right? That said, I apologize for the long letter. I didn't have time to write a short one.
Yeah, exactly.
So it does take some energy.
Yeah, so a lot of it is that narrowing down, focusing on what is that one key message you want your chapter to really present to the reader, and then building out from there, sharing their own personal journey, what they've learned along the way, some of their challenges, again, kind of focusing on the theme of the book, and then sharing some words of wisdom or tips or tools or strategies that the reader can walk away with. So each chapter really is a standalone piece where it's giving you some amazing words of wisdom and also giving you some tips that you can walk away with. And
so it's like reading 20 excellent TED Talks.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. And so I work directly with each one of the authors as much as they feel they need. So some people are very seasoned writers, so they like to just go do their writing and they'll come back and send me a draft review. Others, this is the first time they've ever done something like this, and they just need a little more hand holding. So we'll have a few more meetings of, that fine tuning. Then they'll write a draft. They'll send it to me for review. We'll go back and forth a bit. So really, I've learned over the years. So I've got 11 books published so far. To really, everyone is different. Their approach to writing, how seasoned they are with it, and so I've really learned to leave my calendar open for the authors to use as they see fit.
Reminding everybody that here on Amazon Live, Claire Skillen, Cathy Derksen, we're talking about these books, Evolution of Leadership in STEM, catalyzing women, catalyzing change, and then women transforming the landscape of science and technology. I need to drink more water. But so, Claire, you have you wrote that first chapter in the first book, and then got hooked, and now you're on the third is coming out, right? Not available yet. Let me just remind people that if they click on the books, it's going to open a new tab. Click on Cathy's name, and it'll take you to her author page, and then hit follow, because what will happen then is when the new books come out, you'll get notification. And so you won't want to miss the next in the series. But Claire, I want to go back. You got tagged in a post. You got drawn in. You were able to make your contribution. And then again, in the third time coming up. Tell us about that. Tell us about your mind. What goes on when you were writing that first one, and then going into the second and third.
I think, like many people, you start off wondering, well, what on earth do I share? Especially if you're a new writer and maybe you've spoken in front of people, or you've presented, or what have you. You might have done a post on LinkedIn or here and there. But writing a chapter and telling a story, It's a bit of a different lens, and especially that first book, it unpacked more of a personal journey around, well, who is this person that grew up loving science, and how did things evolve into being of service in technology, and so on and so forth. So initially, part of what went through my mind is, well, what do I write and what do I share that people are going to connect with? And then with some guidance and coaching, I realized I just need to write what's true for me, and it's going to speak to the people it needs to, And I think that was kind of a big shift for me as a newer writer per se, and an important one as well.
Well, I would think that just in the background that you had done at least technical writing, probably somewhere along the line.
back in the business analyst days. I think anybody who's a business analyst listening to this can relate, I think, because when you put out a business requirements or a business process requirements document, those things are huge. They're like 160 pages sometimes. And one things you hope your clients read once you leave. And so, however, that lens on writing about a particular concept versus unpacking something more personal or something that's truly synthesized from a new place, as is probably the third book chapter. It's a bit of a different world. And per your point earlier, apologies for the long letter. It is a process around thinking about, well, how do I structure this, right? How do I put this in a sequence that, people are able to follow? Because there are certain topics, as I'm sure for many people, 2,500 words, geez, I could write a whole book on that. I wouldn't necessarily know how to go about doing that for the inexperienced writers or authors in the group, which I include myself in. But I think a key part is not hesitating in the starting of it. It's never going to be perfect. And so the point is popping something out there, sharing your story, because it's bound to connect with someone. And if it connects with one person, then it already matters, right?
Absolutely. And you're a part of a community when you get into the book too. So tell us what about working with these other authors as they're writing their own chapters. They're each going on a similar journey parallel to yours, but you're not alone in that.
No, you're not. I think in many respects, writing a chapter like this or contributing a chapter like this is a small journey in self-discovery, because let's face it, not many of us have the time necessarily to slow down and really reflect on different aspects or topics. And contributing a chapter, in essence, gives you an excuse, and a beautiful one at that. Not only that, there's an amazing opportunity to broaden your perspective on life by meeting and connecting with all the other authors that are contributing stories, perspectives, journeys in these books. And I'm grateful to remain connected to some of the people from not only the first book, but the second as well. So per your point, it builds community, and it broadens your lens on the world too.
So we have Claire and Cathy, authors. Publisher, Cathy is the publisher, and so many books. And all of these, Cathy, that you create, and I'll remind people, we can go right into the carousel and click on the book. It's going to open a new tab. You can hit add to cart. We talked about sending this to somebody that that could benefit from this. Maybe give some encouragement. Be the hero. Just put their address in, send it to them in just a day or two. They're going to go out to the mailbox and get a surprise there and say, who sent this to me? And I will tell you that I have had people send me books like that. And what a joy, right? To get something that you weren't expecting. It's like, oh my gosh, this is very cool. And so be the hero, buy the book, send it to somebody. In fact, maybe you want to go to add to cart and hit that button a couple of times and keep a couple of copies, because what's going to happen is when you're having that conversation, you're going to be out to coffee with a friend or out at lunch, and they're going to talk about their daughter or their niece, and you're going to say, and you pull out a copy of the book and maybe put a little note to their daughter, to that niece, to that person, and just say, here's some inspirational stories that I think are going to just give you the courage that you need to pursue this course. And Cathy, we were just talking about these cohorts that you put together with the book writing. It's got to be part of the highlight of your publishing process to build these teams.
Oh, definitely. And I would say that is probably my sweet spot, is that whole bringing together a community. And especially, with people that have that common thread, that common just point of view or perspective or some kind of common background. And I would say that is it. That is what it really is for me, is bringing people together. And the next part of that too, that I really just love from this whole process is, to me, becoming a published author is something that helps you step into a whole different view of what's possible in your life. They say that for most people, it's like a 92% of the population has it on their bucket list to become a published author, but only about 5% of people ever do. So for most people, that might be a dream, but it's so far on the back burner that they feel like, well, that will never happen. So, but when it does happen and they've got their book in their hand, there's almost this feeling of, wow, I didn't think that was possible. What else is possible? And to me, that is another one of the parts that really just lights me up when I see someone go through that.
And you do something special with your books that involves a particular piece of ground in Manhattan.
Yes. So last year, I started making the opportunity to be on a billboard in Times Square. And that is now available.
It's like a dream, right?
It's another one of those things. It's on, pretty much everyone has looked at it on the movies and things and said, wow, wouldn't that be cool to be up on a billboard in Times Square? But again, you put it on the back burner so far, like, well, that'll never happen. And then when you're standing in Times Square looking up at your smiling face up there on the big screen, it's amazing, the shifts. Last time we went, women were in tears just looking at it. And before we went out to see it, because the screen that I use has a live stream camera on it, so you can look at it on your phone before you're even out there. And we were sitting in the restaurant before we went to actually see it in person, and a few of the ladies were looking at it on their phones, and almost the whole room was in tears with just this whole idea of, wow, I'm on a billboard in Times Square.
I can't imagine what that's like. But one of the things that I encourage people to be involved, to publish books. I publish some myself, and the one of the things is you're leaving a legacy, right? You're adding to your body of work, but you're leaving a legacy. And I think if my grandparents, any one of my grandparents, have written a book, I don't care what it was about. Right? It could have been a technical book, a manual, a memoir, family history. It could have been a series of short stories, anything. I tell you, I would cherish that book today. And so for people who are thinking about, for that 95% of the people that are thinking about it, and of that, the 2% that actually do, maybe let's make it 3%, be one of the people that jumps in, reach out to Cathy and tell a story. And Claire, you're just talking about this whole personal side of it, that you had to change your mindset. You're sharing about yourself in this story. So I want to know kind of the emotions that you had in your family and friends and what they had to say about you being involved in the project. Maybe you didn't tell them. I don't know.
I think it's kind of funny when you talk to people about being a published author, as Cathy has described. Sometimes, in the average day to day, like, really? Okay, that's nice, and people find that's hard to believe. And sometimes it's hard to believe yourself.
Mm.
And yet at the same time, when you see the physical book there and you see that it's on a site, things really start to become real. And not only for you, because you're going, holy wow, here's a book that I've contributed to that's in real time. Per Cathy's point, it can take a moment or two to sink in, and I think that's true for like friends and family as well. And a number of people just shared excitement, at the idea of doing it, because per Cathy's point, there's a lot of people that have stuff on bucket lists, and only that 5% that go and do it. And there's a phrase that I've been hearing more and more, and initially I heard it a few years ago, and really it came down to that question of why not you. And so each author that Cathy, brings together in this space is in essence creating a possibility for someone else. And I'm not going to pretend like my chapters are by any stretch perfect, because they're not. And I hope that, beyond people connecting with the story in some ways, they'll realize, this I'm not out to win any Booker prizes or anything like that. So, hey, you know what? Maybe this is possible for me too. And I really hope that that's a message that people get as well when they read some of the chapters, especially for people who are new, like me. So I'm out there doing this as a new person. That means anybody can pick up a pen if you want to kick it old school, or go on the computer and type your story, because everybody has one.
I was, after my first book was on Amazon available, I get the notification, congratulations, right? And I was down at the coffee shop. I'm standing in line and talking, just chatting with the guy in front of me, and he said something, and I said, okay, I'll say it. I just got notification from Amazon that my first book is available, and he said, oh, so you're an author. And nobody in my life had ever said that to me, right? Oh, you're an author. And everything in me said, no, I'm not, right? Because I wasn't. But then he says, oh, so you're an author. And after a moment of hesitation, I said, yes, I am. What a thrill, right?
100%.
To have that opportunity. And so once you've become Claire Skillen, published author, what's happened? What's happened since then in your world?
I think, beyond, to quote Brene Brown, the gifts of imperfection, I think I would probably add that to the repertoire. It helps you become a little braver in putting stuff out there before you feel like it's ready to go. So I think most of us, and as I said, I'll stick my hand up for this one. Oftentimes we hesitate to put part of ourselves out there, be it a book chapter, an idea, or something else, before we fully feel ready. And so one of the huge benefits in working on a project like this, or contributing a chapter, is in some respects it's reduced the level of hesitancy that I have in other spheres. So what if I were to try this? What if I were to put this idea out there? And so in some cases it's actually increased curiosity and increased an action bias in a way that maybe other ways might not have, right? And so when you contribute a book chapter, it's a starting point. Maybe it's to a new book, or maybe it's sharing something even bigger.
Yeah. And for you, it obviously led to writing additional chapters.
Yes, it has, and it's helping me build a few other things in the works too, which I can't talk about yet. So stay tuned.
Okay, well, we'll
Yeah.
just with that, let's we'll we'll minimize you for the moment, so we don't leave temptation open to you. Cathy, you've helped so many people become authors. What's something or somebody's story that wasn't an author and became an author? What's one that comes to mind that just does your heart good?
Yes, I definitely have a favorite. And yes, so over the last 4.5 years, I've released 11 books and roughly 20 people per book. So that's over 200 people now in the last 4.5 years. And most of those were new authors. There's been a few now that have carried on and done some more books with me, or ones that have done previous books. But yeah, so roughly 200 people have now come through my program. So that's very cool. And one of my favorite ones that I always love to talk about is one of my friends. And she is someone who's always been very on the woo-woo side, and crystals and dragons and fairies and just all these different energies and even ever since she was a child, she'd always felt like nobody understood her. Nobody could really get what she was saying. And she had always wanted to be an author, but she felt like, well, nobody wants to read what I have to say. And she joined in my first book that was Embrace Courage. She shared her story, what her life had been like, and people loved it. People just started coming to her and wanting more. And she got excited. She did a second book with me that was Midlife Awakening, was the other one she did with me. And, again, she was just getting more and more momentum build. And it sparked in her that, hey, I can do this. I can do a solo book. So then she went on and did a solo book. And then she went and did a second solo book. I was talking to her today. She now has her third solo book almost ready to go. She's also started a YouTube channel out of nothing. She had no idea what she was doing. And now she's recognized there's a community that wants to hear what she does. So she's been very active on YouTube now. She's 75 years old. And all of this has been in her 70s.
That is a story of inspiration for certain, right? That it's never too late. Go ahead and just get started with writing. So reach out, inspiredtenacity.com. That'll get you to Cathy. And I know you've got just a number of different projects, and I'm fortunate that I get to be involved in one of those projects. Let's have you give a little, Cathy, a little oversight onto what that is, because there's still some room for people to come in and join us on that journey.
Yes. So the one that Scott is in with me is called Intentional Perspective, Finding Joy When Life Gets Messy. So with that one, we'll have 20 people, men and women, each sharing their own journey and how they've learned to create joy in their life, regardless of the crazy things that are going on. And some of the people in the group, some are cancer survivors, some have gone through some kinds of abuse. There's a whole range of the messy stuff in life that people have come through, but really focusing on how am I now finding positive things, finding joy, creating joy, spreading joy, regardless of all the other things that I'm up against. And so yes, we have right now, that book is roughly half filled. So we've got about 9 spots left. And actually Claire was thinking of joining us. We'll have to give her a couple pokes. Maybe she will. And
there you go. And you'll be right back here on Amazon with me when we talk about that.
That's right.
When we release that book.
That's right. And that'll be her 4th book by that point.
And that's releasing in early 27. So lots in the hopper. Again, I'm just going to remind people that we do have Claire and Cathy here. We're talking about these books in general, but also specifically Evolution of Leadership in STEM. That's science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. Women Catalyzing Change, and Women Transforming the Landscape of Science and Technology. There's just so much going on in this, Claire. One of the things that I like about these books is, again, we get the personal stories, but we get practical advice. And so we've got a little bit more time here. I'd like to hear some of a little glimpse into what people are going to find when they read your chapter in the book or in the books. What kind of practical advice are you giving?
Yeah, well, it's a fairly nebulous question.
I leave it to you to define.
Oh, thank you for that, Scott. I think I want to touch back on a point you made earlier around like working with high school students or young adults, etc., and how the world of work looks a little different. One thing I would challenge people not to do is to not look at job descriptions. Focus instead on how you can uniquely combine skill sets into something different. So believe that you can create your own because you can. And per your point, all the jobs that we thought about as kids, or even like, it's all changed.
Yeah.
And believe you me, it's going to be even faster. So the job descriptions, they're going to change like the weather, right? But there's certain skill sets that you can hone and combine and recombine that are going to be complementary and resilient in the face of technological advancements. So that's where I invite people to apply that what if and that why not you lens to some of these things as well. And I'm also a strong proponent of encouraging young people and people of all ages for that matter, including anybody in their 70s. This has no age stamp on it, and I think that's a really important piece. It's never too late to do anything. Sometimes you can live more in a couple years than maybe you felt like you did in the last 10. But those 2 years counts, right? So maybe you want to start a business. Am I too old at 70? No, go do it. So that's a core piece. The other part is really get connected to what matters most to you in life, because change happens so fast that we forget to check in with ourselves and say, does this really matter to me right now? How important is that really? And then we realize, okay, I've been putting energy all over into this place over here, but that's not even the most important thing in my life right now. And so no wonder I'm exhausted and I need a nap at 3:00 in the afternoon, So I'd really invite people to take the pause and, be where your feet are, as the expression goes, and really sit with what matters most to you right now. Is curiosity important to you? Great. Is service important to you? Great. What does that look like in action? How are you spending your time in a way that lines up with all those things that matter? Life's pretty short, but you cannot pack a lot in a short amount of time when it's aligned.
Time is short if we don't take action.
Yeah.
But it is packed if we do take action, and little moments matter. Those little things that we do. And I always say good things happen when you say yes. And Claire, you got tagged in a post and you said, yes, I will contact Cathy. And now we've got the 2 books here in the carousel. You got another one coming. We're going to actively encourage you to say yes for this other book coming out. And, I'd love to have you as a part of that cohort. What fun it would be to continue these conversations. Cathy, I want to hear some final thoughts from you about what it means for people to come to you and publish a book.
Let's see. I would say a huge part of it is that idea of stepping into new possibilities, and especially for people who are entrepreneurs and looking for what's that next level of visibility I can create. And definitely becoming a published author is one of the most valuable assets that you'll have as an entrepreneur. It puts you into a whole different level as far as other people in your industry, and especially people that are looking to get into speaking careers. just having the word author in your profile will get you into speaking opportunities that wouldn't even be open to you if you did not have that word. So jumping into one of these multi-author books, you're only writing one chapter, 2,500 words, everything else is done for you. So you don't have to worry about figuring out editors and marketing and the publishing end. It's all done for you. So this is one of the easiest ways of just get in there, give it a try. And like I said, all my books have different themes. So it's really easy to kind of pick and choose and focus on different perspectives of your life. And when you're sharing a story or a chapter that really is focused on your personal journey, what you've learned along the way, and then those tips and tools, for most of us who are entrepreneurs, what we do in our business is what our life has brought us. It's where our passion is. So it's all combined. So when someone reads your chapter, now they're like, now I feel connected with that person. I feel like I know that person. Mm-hmm. And so it really is a great way to go forward and build a lead magnet and to expand in that way as well. So definitely jump in. And like you were saying, if you go to the books on Amazon, click on my name, it takes you to my author profile. And there you'll see all the other books as well. Click on those, add those to your cart as well. And then definitely, yes, come on over, inspiredtenacity.com, and jump into one of the new books.
That sounds great. And I just, I just think there's such a different thing for someone who's a speaker or anyone who's in business that has a book that they're an author on, it's published, to be introduced as our next speaker, D. Scott Smith. Find his book. There's a digital version on his website. Or our next speaker is published author D. Scott Smith. Find his book on Amazon and wherever you buy books. Right? I mean, it's such a different deal.
Yes, I definitely.
So I encourage that. Let me just remind people again, we have got Claire and Cathy, and we're talking about the evolution of leadership in STEM. That's science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, women catalyzing change, and women transforming the landscape of science and technology. So such a great time being with you guys today. I just thank you for taking time to join me here on Amazon. And I look forward to doing this again. Cathy, you've got more books coming out. We'll be here. We'll bring in more authors like Claire and get their perspectives and really just learn about this. But again, people can go to inspiredtenacity.com and sign up. Don't wait for someone to tag you. So with that, I'm just going to say goodbye to everybody here on Amazon. Thank you for joining us. And you can share the link to this show right here on Amazon. It is a permanent link, so people can get a replay if they missed it. But it is available right here, amazon.com/live. And with that, Cathy, thank you so much. Claire, great to meet you. Thank you for being here tonight.
Thanks to you both.